Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide our sleigh tonight? Well, good evening. For Rudolph, read me. Nose so bright? Well, I hope not. Consider a torch or a flashlight. Sleigh? My father's trusty Morris Minor. One foggy Christmas Eve? Absolutely, definitely. Now, in our family, throughout the years of my childhood and my youth, my Auntie Kath had a television and a telephone. My grandmother had a grand piano. My nan had a parrot. And my dad had a car. So it was usually the case that on Christmas Eve it would be my dad and my brother and my mother and I who did the Christmas present run, which involved us taking our Christmas presents to some other person's house and then collecting some perhaps for us and then collecting some to take to another house and so on and so forth. We'd done it several times, and so we knew what we were about. On this particular year, in the afternoon, my brother's friend Tony had been at our house playing, and he opened the door and looked out, and he called out to me, who was nearby, "Jean, the fog ain't half thick." So I said to him, "Tony, it's not fur, it's th." He nodded sagely. Later on, he thought it was time for him to go home so that we could set out on our little voyage, and he opened the door and he said, "Jean, the fog ain't half thick." I don't think he ever did sort out th and th, but his situation was right. The fog was very thick. Nonetheless, we intrepid travellers set off with our presents, and for probably 2/3 of the afternoon and evening, all was well, until we were making our way back home again, and then the fog was a pea super. I don't think these days we get fog that is as bad as that. Smog it was, and the clean air bill and all that sort of thing. And I had to get out of the car, find the flashlight in the glove pocket, discover happily that it worked, and I had to walk ahead of the car, shining the flashlight onto the curb so that my father could slowly drive behind me and we could find our way back home. I know exactly how Rudolph must have felt. But we succeeded, and our journey and our deliveries all successfully were concluded. Remembering things that happen at Christmas is very good fun. I'll tell you another story. For some years, I was deputy head of a big comprehensive school on the boundary between Derby and Nottingham. It was a very well-appointed school, and among other things, it boasted a purpose-built sixth form suite, which was an L-shaped carpeted room, multi-purpose. It could be used as a lounge area, or for lectures, or for films. And off this area, there was a terrace, a balcony built on the roof of the craft room that was below. It looked very attractive, with wooden planters and with shrubs and flowers, which the school gardener kept in good order. Unfortunately, it was never used by the pupils, or for that matter the staff, because it was dangerous. There was, would you believe, no handrail round this terrace. A parapet, about a suitable height for sitting on, 15 inches or so, and that was it. Health and safety had not been considered by the architect who had designed for an attractive, sophisticated feel. In those days, schools did not run their own budgets for building and maintenance, and although every year we asked for a substantial handrail to be put round the said terrace, it came very low in the batting order of things that were to do. One of my jobs was overseeing the termly Governor's Health and Safety Inspection, and one particular winter term we hadn't got round to it until it was nearly time to break up for the Christmas holidays. And after school one night, I was showing the group of governors that formed a health and safety committee around the school. All had gone swimmingly, no one had raised any particular issues, and we were nearing the end of our trip. And we were up in the sixth form suite. And I've got quite good eyesight, or at least I did have then, and I noticed, to my dismay, that the door onto the terrace was not locked. It wasn't even closed. It was standing ajar, and the key was in the lock. I was actually very grateful when at that point the governor's attention was attracted by the noise of happy laughter and singing from the voices of very young children. And while they were moving forward round the L shape of this area to see what the attractive noises were, I quietly shut the door, turned the key, and put the key in my pocket. When I caught up with the governors, we were in the middle of a very happy, jolly little party. Some of the pupils were doing MVQs. One of the MVQs was in childcare, and they had mounted a Christmas party for the children that they had used as their samples, I suppose, during their term of working with the young people and with some of their mums and dads. Had lots of nice things to eat. They had party games, and the school music teacher was there playing tunes, and everyone was singing, and there was some dancing, and one little child said to me they were having a lovely time and looking forward to Santa coming. Well, we moved on and we finished our health and safety visit, and that was that. Until the next morning. When I went into school, I happened to see the teacher who'd been in charge of the course, and I said, "You seem to be having a very successful party with your young people last night." And she said to me, "We were, until the children sang Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which was the signal for Santa Claus to arrive. And he didn't arrive. He couldn't arrive. He was out on the balcony, and by then it was raining, and he was sopping wet, and somebody had locked the door and had taken away the key, and the caretaker couldn't find the spare key, and by the time Santa Claus arrived at the party, it's a wonder that all the presents weren't sopping wet." I tried to keep a straight face, and just gently said, "Oh dear." I don't think I ever owned up to very many people that I had been the person that had stopped Santa coming. There was another occasion when I didn't stop Santa coming. We had at Kilburn Hall an event where 2 different women's institutes gathered together for a Christmas meal. The 2 secretaries that had organised the event on behalf of each of their groups were very different in style. One was laid back and happy about most things, and not given to bothering too much about detail. The other one was punctilious and believed in lists and times, etc. So when people arrived, one knew exactly what the seating plan was, and the other group had no idea and didn't care. When it came to getting their main course, one group had little cards which had written on them what they had ordered, and the other group didn't know, couldn't remember, and didn't mind much. and so it had gone on all evening. When I'd asked if anyone was going to say grace, both of the secretaries sprang to their feet, and then one of them looked grumpy and the other one laughed, and I think I said grace because that way there wasn't any aggravation. They were partway through the meal, finished the main course, coming to the end of the sweet course, looking forward to mince pies and chocolates and coffee, when the front doorbell rang. I went and answered the front doorbell, and before I even got to the door was a bit surprised because our front door is glass, and I could see through the glass Santa Claus, complete in the whole Santa regalia, including large sack. I opened the door. I wasn't expecting Santa Claus to arrive that night, and was even less expecting his first words to me, which were, "Hello, am I in the right place?" I didn't know whether he was in the right place. I don't know what place he was looking for. So I said, "Well, what are you looking for?" And he said, "I've got a sack full of presents for ladies." And I said, "Well, we've got a lot of ladies here at the moment, about sort of 30, 40 ladies." "Right," he said, "it must be the right place." So with no more ado, he comes in, he goes into the dining room where everyone is eating or drinking, as it were, and there's a lot of ho-hoing and hum-humming and a lot of hugs and Merry Christmases and things, and everybody gets a present, including me. I still have my present. It's a nice little satin-covered notebook, which occasionally makes an appearance and has done several times on stage in shows. At the end of it all, there was much waving of goodbye and much thank you and Merry Christmasing, and it was all very jolly. And nobody made any comment about the fact that Santa had come, except to say what a nice surprise it was. So I assumed that he had been in the right place and all was well. It was only the next day that it occurred to me, since there were two secretaries, even if neither of them had organised a Santa Claus, they would reasonably assume that the other one had, or they will both assume that I had, and I most definitely hadn't. And I'm sorry to say, or delighted to say, that to this day I have no idea at all whether Santa Claus was in the right place. I'll tell you another Christmas story as we get nearer to the day. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.